We did it!
Yay!
We're here!
Okay!
Hi, everyone. Welcome to How to DM. I am here with somebody you probably recognize if you're watching, and you will probably recognize as soon as you hear his voice because you hear it a lot. Mr. Jeremy Crawford.
Hello, everyone.
Yay!
Lead rules designer for Dungeons and Dragons. When you were growing up and playing Dungeons and Dragons, did you think this was like an actual job that you could have?
No way.
Isn't that weird?
No, if I traveled back in time and told the kid version of me, someday this will be your job, he would have.
Like,
that
that's
little,
not a job.
yeah, little boy me would be like,
You're lying, mister.
Yeah.
Also, don't talk to strangers.
this is a big trick.
Yeah. Lead rules designer.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
But I love it
that's
every
your job.
day. It's a privilege. I get to work on a game I love. I get to work with wonderfully creative people, and we get to make things for fans who love the game and do amazing things with it.
And we make the world a better place because D&D helps make the world a better place. It really does,
yeah.
in my opinion. And so does dungeon mastering, or so I'm told.
Since there is no D&D without dungeon mastering.
We need more dungeon masters.
That's right.
You always need dungeon masters.
Yes.
When did you start your foray into dungeon mastering?
So I started as a kid. I played it first for a little bit, and I started playing when I was around 6 years old.
6?
Yeah. But at first, to be clear, when I say I started playing D&D, it's like big air quotes here because we didn't realize there were rules. There was this older kid at my school who had found one of the original adventures. I think it might have been White Plume Mountain.
Oh, wow.
And would just read situations out of the adventure to us, and we would just make up what happened.
That's kind of D&D.
Yeah. So it was later when I discovered there was actually a framework for how you described what you would do. I thought, oh, this is even more cool because then you can like take what you imagine and tie it to this neat game. But my first experience was just open-ended storytelling. And so I thought that was D&D. And then the more I got into the rules, the more I wanted to be on the DM side of the DM screen and start creating scenes for my friends. And, you know, I DM'd a lot of like classic old adventures when they first came out, like the Temple of Elemental Evil, the original Dragonlance saga, all of that. I was often there as a kid, either in the dining room in our house or out on the picnic bench. My mom and my stepdad would have us sometimes sit out on the picnic bench out in the backyard.
Get some fresh air.
Yeah. Well, plus I grew up on the central coast of California where the weather is like perfect.
Yeah, you should be outside.
So we got sunshine and played D&D at the same time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You got vitamin D and D&D.
Look at you.
I mean, come on.
It was D and D and D.
So much.
Yes. And my mom and my stepdad's names both start with D.
Seriously?
Yeah, so they were sometimes referred to as D&D.
D&D?
Dennis and Diana.
I feel like this was meant to be your path.
That's right.
You didn't really have a choice. Like, you know, once learning this game doesn't have any rules, it's awesome. And then you're like, I'm going to make the rules. You know what? This game needs some rules, and I'm the man to do it.
Yep.
That is awesome.
What I find is adorable is to this day, my mom, despite having seen hours and hours and hours of Dungeons and Dragons, both when I was a kid and DM'd at home, and then now she will sometimes watch like my Acquisitions Incorporated games. She still doesn't really get what it is, but she's just like, oh, it's funny.
It's just, that's my son being really clever and talented.
Yeah.
I know, they don't really get it. My dad does not. Like, I once overheard him explaining D&D to someone, and I was like, after I'm like, you never read my book, did you? Like, I actually wrote about this very thing. And he was like, no, I absolutely looked at the pictures in that book.
Yes,
exactly. I sure did. It was like, it's cute and charming that you're trying to explain it to someone, like another like 65-year-old man or something, but whatever. They don't get it. Have you ever played with your mom?
I haven't. I have offered though, and I think I might actually get her to play.
Really?
Yes, because my 2 nephews and my 4 nieces, all in that side of my family, they all want to play.
Oh, boy.
My stepsister wants to play. And when my mom saw the excitement of like the family all wanting to play, she was like, oh, maybe I'll finally get to play.
Get to play.
Yes.
Does that make it sound like she's wanted to and you never let her?
I always would have let my mom play
Of
if she had
course.
wanted to, because my mom is great. And I also love that. I think it was my stepsister who's also never played, but she's like, maybe I'll finally try it. And she's like, can I play a mermaid? And I was like, of course.
That's a good DM tip right there,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
'Cause-
Yes, you can.
And yeah, because this is a tip to all of you out there. I'm a big fan when you're a DM of reskinning things that are in the game to make people's D&D dreams come true.
Yes.
So if you have someone who wants to play a mermaid, it is easy to do. Just take the Triton, who we published in Volo's Guide to Monsters.
There you go.
Just describe them as a mermaid. And when they need to walk on land, then their tail will just magically turn into feet and they can walk
like
around.
Ariel.
Yes.
Yes.
But without a wicked sea witch messing things up.
Right. I mean, you could, I guess, if you
That would be
want to
fun.
play that.
In fact, I might have to do that as the
She might need that.
as the adventure for
Yeah.
when I do the giant extended family D&D game.
That's going to be fun.
yeah.
What kind of character do you think your mom would be?
She's going to want to be somebody powerful and regal.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm guessing she's going to want to play like a sorcerer or a wizard or someone with magic,
Yeah.
because she often likes magic in stories, but regal. So I might have to say she's like a visiting queen or something.
I think you absolutely need to say that. I think that's going to be amazing. This could become a new family tradition.
Yes. Well, and on my dad's side, we already do play D&D together.
You do?
Oh yeah, because it was my sister Amy in that family who introduced me to D&D,
Oh.
and I've DM'd now for one of her daughters, and I've also DM'd for her and her wife. We used to have a D&D game where it was my husband, my sister, her wife, and then their dog, Biscuit.
Biscuit played too?
Yes. And
How do I not know this story?
yeah, so I tweeted about it once. This was a real thing. So Virginia, who was in our group, Virginia is my sister's wife. She was playing this druid who had this wolf animal companion named Vega. And Biscuit, who was the dog, would always sit at our feet while we were playing D&D. And we noticed this amazing thing. Anytime someone said the name Vega, Biscuit would bark.
No.
Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
And so we're like, oh, Biscuit is playing Vega. And
Oh
so
my God.
Which then made us all, even me as the DM, I was like, oh my God, I can't let anything bad happen to Vega.
No, you cannot.
Because Vega is Biscuit's character.
Yeah. You can't kill the dog's character.
No.
Oh my God. I love that idea.
Yeah, yeah. So I recommend if anyone out there, if you have dogs and cats, see when you play D&D if they respond to what's going on.
I believe that my cat does enjoy D&D because when we've played at home before, she gets on the table a lot. She can't really resist dice.
Right.
But she just likes to sit there and just like, it's your turn now. And now it's yours. And then occasionally like bat the dice or something. But she's always like involved. She loves stories.
And I've noticed with dice, with D20s in particular, our cat, Cheshire, he has all sorts of great, toys made for cats. But the couple of times the D20 has made it on the ground, oh my gosh, does he want to roll that die?
Oh, yes.
He bats it all over, and it helps that we have hardwood floors, so
Yeah.
that die is just shooting across the dining room into the
Do you
kitchen.
ever just check to see what he rolled just out of curiosity?
No, but I should.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I realize that it sounds weird to say, like, my cat loves Dungeons and Dragons. I know she does. But, like, she really, anytime, like, if we're doing stories at the end of the night with Quinn, she comes into the room and she sits right next to me and just, like, peers at the book over my shoulder. So I'm like, she might be a dungeon master.
Yeah, yeah.
I should talk to her about how to DM.
So our cat also occasionally will do like little read a story at dinner or something, and
So cute.
and the cat, come listen.
Yes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like she's, she's always sits with me whenever I sit down. She's, I never see her. But when she hears that stories are beginning, she comes into the room.
Yeah.
And when there's D&D on the table, she jumps on the table and just watches.
Yeah. So someone needs to have a character that is your cat's.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. But I guess we will start involving her. All this time, for like 15 years, she's been like, bitch, I want to play.
That's right.
What's wrong? Why are humans so dumb?
See, no one knew that this episode was going to be about your pets playing Dungeons
We
and
have
Dragons.
a new topic. How to DM for your pets. Maybe we should talk about our topic.
Yes.
The actual topic. This might actually, I was reading through some of the subjects under this topic, and I'm like, well, you might have to come back and keep talking about it because there's a lot. But one of the things that is important is table etiquette. And the job should not fall to the dungeon master to be the ruler of the table etiquette. Like, players should have a sense of what's right and what's wrong. And I started thinking about this, like, what kind of player am I? Like, would a dungeon master think I was a good player or a bad player? And I'm like, I'm very respectful of rules, and I always feel grateful to the dungeon master for, doing all this work for my enjoyment. And then I was like, well, sometimes I look at my phone, and sometimes I talk to the person next to me, and sometimes I zone out when it's not my turn, and then it's my turn. I'm like, oh, wait, where are we? And then I started thinking, oh man, I suck. Maybe I need to really pay attention to this topic. So as a dungeon master and as a player as well, there has to be some things that are just like, oh, stop. What just drives you crazy as a dungeon master?
So the biggie is players not respecting each other.
Yeah.
I really like it when players listen to each other and allow each other to have a moment in the spotlight.
Yes.
And I mean, honestly, this is also just a thing in like meetings and,
life.
and family life. But because it's funny, as DM, you already get the player's attention a lot of the time. Also, you're often role-playing the player's adversaries. So I get it if sometimes the players aren't feeling super chummy with the DM during the game.
Right.
And so that's why I can take it if they're not like being, my best buds during the game when I'm the dungeon master. But I really don't like it if I notice the players are not being respectful and kind to each other and not only giving each other's characters time in the spotlight, but making sure they're all working to keep the game moving in a way that is making everyone have a good time.
Yeah.
Because people often think it's like, oh, it's the DM's job to always keep things moving, but players have a powerful role in the tempo of the game, getting to the next fun thing, and players sometimes can get very self-indulgent of, all right, now we're going to talk in endless detail about this thing, and if they would just read the room, like no one else is interested in this.
That's also a very important life skill. Read the room, people.
Yeah. Now, that part, at least when it comes to tempo, the DM can help, because what I will often do if I notice that one or two players have sort of hijacked the scene, and no one else is really enjoying it, I can then introduce something, the equivalent of the Kool-Aid guy breaking through the wall, the troll just shattered through the wall. Now suddenly everyone has to focus on something. Or if the players, if their characters are split up, I'll switch focus to what's going on with the other people, just to make sure people feel involved.
Yeah.
But the players have some responsibility in kind of editing in a way what their characters are doing, because they are in this open-ended storytelling experience, but they're sharing that experience with other people. And so I always think, always go for the most cool, highest protein version of what your character wants to do, rather than this is gonna go on for 15 minutes and really it was just your character's shopping montage.
Oh my God.
Which I have seen. And again, my home group loves shopping montages, but they're also great at, we're all shopping together.
Right. Yes. If they're all into it, that's great.
Yeah. Not, because again, I've seen this where like, all right, we're all getting ready to venture. Oh, wait, everyone, I have something to go do. And then the character goes off and does something. And then, okay, sometimes it's a super secret thing.
Right.
But
that would propel the game. That's probably something that's...
Right. Like, look for opportunities as a player to engage other people, even in your character's personal business. Like, sure, maybe your character's going to go pick out the super secret outfit that you're going to wear to the King's Masquerade Ball. Still, bring your friends. They'll tell you if you look good in it or not.
Yes, that's also a good life skill.
Yes, this is all our session.
We're really talking about real life.
Yeah, we're just talking about real life. Because everyone always bring a friend when you go clothes shopping.
Yeah, especially for an important event like that.
Yes.
I mean, that sounds big.
Because you can't see yourself from every direction.
No.
No.
And the lighting is terrible at some stores. So I will refrain from naming a very prominent department store here in Seattle. But my God, their dressing rooms are terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. I am such a stickler about having a shopping buddy, by the way, that if I happen to be shopping for any kind of clothing, including glasses, and I don't have someone with me, I will take photos and send them and like, please tell me,
Yes.
does this work?
It's very important. Glasses, I feel like, are definitely something you need a second opinion on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've played, I always think of this guy when I think of table etiquette. I think he was just sent to our group because somebody was like, you need to learn what D&D is. And he was like, fine, I'll just go play with these guys. And I think he thought D&D was something you win individually.
Oh boy.
Because he was very bossy for someone who like didn't know the rules, but is an avid gamer and plays a lot of player versus player types of games. So he picked up on rules quickly, but he was like telling us all what to do. You stand over there and you should be casting this and what's wrong with it? And like, it was the worst 2 hours because all of us were like, oh my God, this guy sucks. He's not even really part of our group. We don't like him. We're not having fun. The whole, and talk about reading the room. The DM did not read that room because he let this guy just kind of steamroll all over us. I don't know if he was intimidated. I don't know what the deal was with that. But when you get those types of players, they're like, I know how to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to take this whole thing over. Like, what the heck do you do with those people?
That is a great question. First, I like to make sure that, especially if there's like a new person added to the group, or if you're like at a convention and you don't know anyone in the group,
right?
One of the things I do as DM is always pause and have everyone describe their character. This seems like a super basic thing to do.
It's a very smart thing.
But you can learn a lot about a person and how they describe their character.
So you're doing this kind of like not just for players to get to know one another. You're doing it so you can understand the player psychology behind it?
Yes, okay. Especially when I'm DMing at a convention. I want the other players to be able to imagine what each other's characters look like. So that's a big reason, because it's just good. You know, I know what, Shelly, your character now looks like, and it will make my sense of immersion better. But I, as Dungeon Master, am actually mostly using that as a chance to just get a read on this person I've just met, to see, am I seeing any warning signs?
What would those be?
Sometimes people will have backstories, first off, that go on and on and on and on, and it's clear, okay, they think this is all about them.
Yep.
And so then I might need to work in a reminder of, hey, since this is a co-op game and you're all working together, really kind of push that this is about your characters working as a team.
Okay.
And that your character, yes, might have this amazing backstory. That's lovely. But when we're at the table together, it's about the story these characters are creating together.
Yes.
It's also a chance for me to potentially spot something that might be uncomfortable or offensive for people at the table. Because sometimes in talking about a person's character, they will talk about things in their past or about their character in the present that is like, I don't think this is going to fly here. Maybe if the expectation was set that, let's say, this is a kind of rated M game, sometimes at conventions it's like it's all adults.
Right.
And if I read the players, people seem okay. But also sometimes at convention games, I'll DM tables where there are kids there. And so that's also a way for me to be like, that's not really a topic we're going to explore today at this table.
You actually will say that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I always keep an eye on the other players as well, not just in the introductions, but throughout the game. For me, one of the most important jobs as a DM is listening. almost more than talking. We so often associate DMing with talking.
Yeah.
But I actually think being a good listener is one of the main characteristics of a great dungeon master. Partly for storytelling reasons, because you always want to catch the thread of where the players are going with their imaginings, with their narrative that they want to build, and sort of take those threads and weave them into a cohesive story. And the only way to do that as a DM is being a really engaged listener. But it's also important, that listening and that watching, to make sure it's clear that people are having a good time.
Yeah.
And most of us know what it looks like when someone's having a good time. They look engaged, they're smiling, they're laughing. But if you suddenly notice you have a player who's withdrawing, who has all the body posture of they're uncomfortable, that's a sign for a dungeon master, we need to adjust.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might not even be something that's going on at the table. The person might have something going on in their lives that they didn't feel comfortable bringing up. You know, someone in their family might be ailing. You know, they might have just taken their pet to the vet, and they're concerned. You know, what are the test results going to be? I mean, these are all real things.
Yeah.
You know, that affect us because you know D&D groups bring in all the streams of the players' lives to the one table, and it's not just the characters that are there, but the people behind them, bringing everything to that table. And if it's something where I can't tell what's causing it, I will often have a break at some point and check in with the person. Like,
Okay.
How are you feeling? You know, is there something in the game that isn't sitting well with you, or is there something else you'd like to talk about? How I say it is always dependent on who the person is. How well do I know
if you
them?
know 'em.
I don't want them to feel like they're on the spot, you know, or that they're in trouble. You know, it's fine to, you know, we all have bad days. Now, flip side though, is if I observed that they are uncomfortable about something that has transpired at the table, especially if it's because of something one of the other players had their character say or do, and if that other character really is misbehaving. If it's not like offensive in the real world, like if it's just offensive in the real world, I as Dungeon Master will say something to the player, like that's not cool. But if it's sort of more an in-game thing where like their character is just being this terrible poop, you know, like they keep murdering all the NPCs that people are trying to talk to and, you know, and actually work with, or they're stealing all the other characters' money and it's just driving everyone insane. When it's in-world misbehavior that isn't sort of offensive in the real world, then what I love to do is have in-world response. I will have NPCs and monsters in the world respond to the bad behavior.
Oh.
I often find that is way more powerful than me as a DM saying something to the player.
Well, yeah, because they'll feel like they're getting called out and then maybe get defensive, and that's not going to help anyone.
Whereas if it's in game, it can actually be a part of the fun.
Yeah.
Because if you know, there is someone just acting the fool and some NPC is just like, oh, honey,
I've heard about you.
then they might even laugh at themselves. And there's also another powerful element to that is, while at the same time you're actually signaling through the game to the person of like, maybe pull that back. You're also oddly affirming that in this game there are consequences, which is one of the powerful things about D&D, is because it's run by a person who can respond to what's going on, your choices, your good ones and your bad ones, can have real consequences in the world of the game, including when your character's being a jerk, someone in world calling them on it. And I think, again, it not only it kind of can help to diffuse potentially tense situations, but it can also even inject some humor.
Yeah.
And again, be a gentle way to just remind people there are consequences. Like if you keep misbehaving like this, the peeps in the D&D world are going to be like,
Yep, you ain't be welcome here.
Yeah, no more.
I like that because you've turned something that's potentially uncomfortable or destructive into a story hook.
Yeah, exactly. And you might also, as a DM, discover aspects to your own NPCs that you weren't aware of. Because so often we think of our NPCs as almost like story delivery device.
Right.
It's like a set of like androids.
Must deliver
Yeah.
news.
Who they have like a very specific purpose. But you will then often, when you're like, wait, how would this NPC be cranky? Like, what sets them off?
Yeah. What's their story?
Then suddenly the NPC comes to life.
That just inspired it. I'm going to write that down. I think we could do a whole segment on NPCs, how to maximize your NPCs. But
Yeah.
yes, keep going.
Yeah. But so really to sum up a lot of that, I would say DMs, use your NPCs when possible to help steer what's going on at the table. Because it also doesn't feel as heavy-handed as sort of out of world, out of character saying this needs to change. If it's happening in the game, it keeps people focused on the game. Now, there's a whole other category of misbehavior at the table where if it's like real world offensiveness being offensive to the players at the table, well, then that might be an opportunity to just say, okay, we're going to take a pause now and we're going to talk.
Do you use safety tools in your games ever?
So I use these techniques I've talked about of really listening, getting people to talk about their own characters. Those are sort of the tools I use. I haven't used like the X card, which some people use, but I think that's an especially useful tool, or tools like that for convention play.
Yeah.
Basically anywhere where you don't know the people that you're with.
Yeah.
And also, if you're a dungeon master who, you feel comfortable telling a story, but you didn't really sign up to sort of be a referee of the player's behavior at your table, the X card can be a great tool where, if for anyone who's listening doesn't know what it is, it's a card that sits in the table. And if something happens in the game or in conversation among the people at the table that makes someone feel uncomfortable, they can reach out and touch that card, and that's a signal to the DM. Okay, stop.
No questions asked.
Yeah,
we're moving on,
and we'll move on. And that is such a crucial part of it, is the no questions asked. We're not going to interrogate the person. Now, why are you uncomfortable?
Why do you not like child abuse? Please explain.
Right. And no, that means, okay, we'll move on. And the beauty as dungeon masters, because we have literally worlds at our fingertips, is we can just shift to something else.
Right.
Move right along. So I am a fan of that kind of thing, especially when you're playing with strangers.
Definitely.
The main reason I personally don't usually use them is simply because I'm comfortable confronting somebody if I have to. But I don't think anyone should put themselves in that position if that is not a comfortable place for them to be in.
Yeah, I guess that's also a question, is how you empower your players. Like if you don't have like the X card in front of you, even if you're a group that is familiar with each other, but how do you empower players to be able to say like, not cool, I don't want to talk about this. Because like you're obviously instilling something in that group that you're DMing for. Like you're confident in saying, we're not going there.
Right.
But how did you make your players also feel like we're comfortable playing together, we're comfortable stopping things from going too far?
So again, it's different when I DM for strangers versus when I DM at home. Because when I DM at home, or even when I DM at Acquisitions Incorporated, it's like I know the players.
Right.
I know what
boundaries will be pushed.
Yes, and I know what they like. So it actually makes my job as DM very easy in those contexts, because I know what these people like. I know in general what's not going to be comfortable for them. When it comes to strangers, one of the ways I often make it so that there isn't really an opportunity usually for people to misbehave or cause discomfort is, if I'm doing a convention game that's only 90 minutes to 2 hours, I just make sure it's pretty much like nonstop action and NPCs saying, "Oh my God, the sky is falling, help!"
Right.
So because especially when you're having those sorts of really focused D&D experiences, I think it's often best as a DM to just let's just get into what is the heart of this adventure,
right?
Because typically it's in those times where things are a little less unstructured, players start having a bit more control over the pacing, I find that's often when things can go sideways, especially with a group of strangers. Whereas again, if it's just like, oh my God, here's, one problem after another that we have to solve as a group, that's a powerful way to unify them.
Yeah.
It's a powerful way to get them focused on the game and not figuring sort of each other out or accidentally offending each other.
Would you use that tactic too if you were having trouble? And I honestly, I can't imagine you having trouble keeping players engaged at your table. But say like a dungeon master notices like, oh my God, like put your phone down, or like, why are you falling asleep in between your turn? Like, is that a tactic too? Like, just keep them engaged. Like, just keep stuff happening to them so they have no choice but to. Because like, there's some players that don't like the narrative stuff.
Right.
I've played with them. They're like, oh, more story. It's so boring. Let's go kill something.
Right.
And then of course there's the people who don't really like the combat part. They just want to tell the story part. But that's a separate question when you have those two groups. But we can talk about that. But how? Like if you have people that seem like they're becoming disengaged for whatever reason, what do we do? That's my biggest fear. Like if I see people like being bored of my adventure, I will die.
So it is my greatest fear too, and it's why I'm always ready for a scene change.
Okay.
So for the situation to change in some way, oh my God, there's suddenly freak weather. The monster bursts through the wall. Again, the Kool-Aid guy showing up. Oh my gosh, this NPC you care about is in trouble. Or the wizard that she just called you up via sending, and you now need to go deal with this problem that just popped up. Oh my gosh, you're on the crowded street and this carriage just toppled over, and help, the people are hurt. I'm always looking for ways to inject something going on in the world if I notice people's attention is flagging. It's clear like whatever's going on is just not their thing. It's like, all right, let's get this exciting again. Part of what helps me do that is my mindset as a DM is almost never that I sort of set up a situation in advance and then just guide my players through it. I think that's actually, it's one of the dangers of, especially when we do dungeons and like you have this map and you've pre-placed everything, and it's almost this idea of like, okay, here's my dungeon dollhouse.
Right.
And now I'm going to basically take everyone on a tour through our dungeon dollhouse. And that can work, but it can also end up being really dull if people are going through it really slowly, or they're just being super hesitant about going through that door versus that door.
Yes.
Or if you have people who are just like not that interested in exploration. So that's why I always try to think of even a dungeon, but it's especially easy to do this with like a city or a floating castle or some of the other environments where D&D adventures can occur. I always try to think of what are the living, moving aspects of this place, because people aren't just going to sit in a room and wait for people to show up to kill them.
Right.
I mean, unless they have a death wish or
like,
what are they doing? And that like there's no reason that because either if it's an adventure I designed, or if I'm running a published adventure, there's no reason that just because it says that there are 3 bugbears are in room J, that doesn't mean they're always there.
Yeah.
And so if things are getting boring over here in this T junction because the group just will not make up their minds, well then, okay, here come the bugbears.
Yeah.
And
we will help you.
Yeah.
Make up your mind.
Exactly. And so I will do that kind of thing often. Even sometimes when I'm running Adventurers League adventures where, it's all preset, I'll mess with the adventure if I need to keep things moving, keep things engaged. I'm like, oh, the fun thing is actually 3 rooms down here, but at the rate these guys are going, they're never going to get there.
Oh,
so I'm just going to have the fun leave that room and meet them out here in the hallway.
Bring the fun to them.
Yeah. And that's another important tip is just remember, DM, you're not bound by what you prepared. Or if, again, you're using a published adventure, you're not bound by what's on the page. Take it as a tool and then play with it. Move the things around in the dungeon dollhouse.
It's modular.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm wondering if you, as a dungeon master, have ever found somebody's character just really annoying. Like, not them as the person playing it, but the character is like, oh my God, I cannot sit at this table with this person for 2 hours. This character, I want to kill this character.
So I don't actually think that has happened to me as a dungeon master. It has happened to me as a player.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Someone else's character just annoyed the shit out of you.
Yeah. But then I just keep my cool and focus on having a fun time, because whether I'm DMing or playing, I always keep in mind, again, it's a co-op game.
Yeah.
This is about everyone following their bliss. They're not doing any harm. I even try to find some amusement in it.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
Yeah. Maybe your character can be annoyed by them, and that could just be a new dynamic.
Yeah. I would be more concerned as a DM if I noticed that someone's character choice was annoying everybody else.
Okay, then what would you do?
Probably between sessions, I would talk to the person and say, okay, this thing you're doing, I get it. It amuses you, but maybe we could dial it down just a little bit, because we don't want the rest of the group to just get up and leave and then we don't have a campaign anymore.
Right.
Maybe you can keep doing that thing you really enjoy, but just, tone it down. Tone it down a bit.
I wonder if there's anything you could do. It depends on, I guess, what the thing is. If like an in-world thing, like maybe they have this really stupid battle call that like whenever combat occurs, they do this thing that you could give them some, I don't know, like now there's some demon around that gets triggered every time they hear like the clucking of a chicken. So don't cluck like a chicken.
Yeah. Well, and that I do occasionally, if people do something that is like, sometimes people will have jokes and it's like, okay, it was funny the first 2 times, but on time 20, it's like, oh my God. I will sometimes have, that's another case where I might have an NPC sort of intervene with their eye rolling or their sass of like, really, this again.
It's not you.
No.
Another cat story that reminds me, like Bart and I sometimes use our cat to tell each other like what we're doing that's really annoying. Like my cat would be like, oh my God, look at how you loaded the dishwasher. Why would you put that there? And I'm just in the background like, Zini, you're so mean to him.
That's what, if Philip was having Chesh talk to me, that's what he would have Chesh talk to me about, is loading the dishwasher.
There's always like, that's a big contentious issue in any marriage. Yep. There's always one person that like really cares about it. And then the other one's just like, what? It's in the dishwasher.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. But
it does.
I mean, Philip is a set designer and architect, and he has strong feelings about how efficiently things can be loaded into that dishwasher.
Oh, me too. We could talk. I was always thinking, I'm like, I'm going to start an Instagram channel of like bad dishwashing loading. And I know there's going to be people like me and Philip that are going to be like, I'm just going to scroll this all night, and it's just going to like raise my hackles. But and then like the right way to do it, the before and the after.
See, I do at least acknowledge his way is better.
Well, that's good.
But I just...
You just don't care.
Well, no, the thing is I do care, and I've tried a bunch of times.
Oh.
But it's still never as good as how he wants it. So he will just walk over and be like, go ahead.
Yep.
And he'll rearrange the thing. It's no skin off my nose.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to fight him on it.
I do that too, right in front of Bart. I'm like, I'm just going to move these. Don't put this over here. Yes. Yeah. He's a good sport about it. Oh, so much. Maybe we can use some table etiquette to deal with that too. I know some of these questions came from people on Twitter, and I know that they cared very much about having these answered, and I want to try to get through as many as we can. But let's see. We kind of talked about that. Kind of talking about that. That's good. Okay. What if you're the problem, Dungeon Master? What if like sometimes you're just not on your game,
Yep.
pun intended?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to like get yourself, like get the juices flowing again?
So first thing is I try to be in touch with how I'm feeling about DMing my home game well before anyone shows up at the house. And if I am just not into it, I'll cancel the session.
You will?
Oh, yeah. Because...
Well, I mean, you should. You have the
and
freedom to do that.
And because this goes back to me, like, it's a game. We play D&D because we love it.
Yeah.
We play because we like getting together. It's all about us following, our D&D bliss together. And if I, as the person who's sort of pulling it together as the dungeon master, am just not into it, it's better to just say, not today. Sometimes we'll still get together and we might play a board game or go out and get dinner.
Maybe a little Dungeon Mayhem.
In fact, we've played Dungeon Mayhem before. I love this game.
I know you do.
I've introduced it to so many people.
I love that.
Because often, one thing I love about the sort of sad story of how many DMs force themselves to DM even when they're not actually up to it is I love that at the heart of it is this desire to hang out together. And so there's a sweetness there. And I just encourage DMs who are listening, hang on to that piece, but don't torture yourself and make yourself DM when you're not up for it. Just hang out anyway and play something else.
Right. You're right. At the crux of it, that's what we all want to do.
Yeah.
We want to be together. If we play a game, that's great. But we all just want to be together.
Now, there are the other situations, though, where you maybe don't realize until you've already started the session that, oof, you are really off your game today, Jeremy. In the few cases where that has happened, I've shortened the session and just try to get us to a cool ending as quickly as possible. And then and we're going to end right there. And again, maybe now we'll go play something else.
Right.
So we'll go out and get a drink. And look forward to the next session.
Yes.
So to me, it's, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about really listening to each other, paying attention to each other. That also includes paying attention to oneself as the DM.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying this? How is this going for you today? I think that's an important question for us to ask ourselves.
And it's important for players to also pay attention to their dungeon master. And if you notice that your DM is kind of off their game, is there anything as a player that you could do to help?
I think one thing players can do is they actually have some of the same techniques available to them as the DM does. They can suddenly introduce something amusing by having their characters do something. If they realize the DM is getting testy because they've been dithering about what to do next for the last 20 minutes, then maybe decide what to do next and stop tugging at the DM's last shred of patience. It goes both ways. And also players, if you just think, oh boy, our DM this week, she looks like, she didn't get any sleep the night before, or hey, we know, she's been on deadline the last week in the real world. Maybe we actually just say, hey, after the first hour or so, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's pause there. Maybe we can do something else.
Yeah.
Also, but sometimes, you know what? It could also just be a simple pick me up. One of the things I love that one of my players does, and he does it all the time, not when I'm just feeling bad. It's just a part of our ritual in my home game. It's usually about midway through any session. He'll get up, and we always DM it at our house, but he feels at home in our house. He'll go into the kitchen and he'll make me a cocktail and he'll bring it to me as the DM. Your DM.
I love this guy.
Yes. Oh, and he makes a great old fashioned.
Oh my God.
Whoever your DM is, they might not be into cocktails, but I bet there's something they would love for you to bring them midway through a session.
Yes.
Whether it's a snack or
an offering.
Yeah. Or reminding the DM, because sometimes DMs, will feel so responsible for everyone's fun.
Oh, yes.
That they'll just keep powering through. Sometimes players, you actually need to give your DM permission to take a break.
Yeah.
And I don't mean break for multiple sessions. No, I mean take a 10-minute break.
Right. Yes.
It's okay
Literally.
to stand up from the table for 10 minutes, stretch your legs, get something to eat, chit chat a little bit, and then resume play. Now, some DMs are great about regulating that kind of thing. But when I was a younger DM, I was often lousy at that, of working breaks into a game. Whereas now it's a regular thing. I think especially if we're having a 3 or 4 hour session,
you definitely need a break.
We need some breaks in there.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care for the DM.
And I also find the players play better and stay more engaged that way. If people are fidgeting with their phones, if their attention is drifting.
Right.
often the remedy is, hey, let's just do something else for 5-10 minutes.
Yep.
Talk about what we were all just watching on Netflix,
Yeah.
or whatever video game we were just playing, or what's going on The Bachelor. And
Yes.
I did that just for you.
Thank you. We need more than 5 minutes here.
Then come back, and people usually will be refreshed. To me, there's no merit, unless like you're doing a stream game or you're on stage like we are with Acquisitions Incorporated. There's no merit in just powering through. Like, come on.
Yeah.
This is a
yeah,
game.
Like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, we're here to have fun.
We're fine. I'm going to ask 2 more questions because I know that we're chatting it up here. The first one is, as a player, I sometimes get really worried when it's my turn that I'm going to bore people and I'm going to take too long. And so I'll just end up doing something really impetuous, and it's sometimes the wrong thing. And then my turn's over and it's like, oh, okay. Now I'll just wait for everyone else. But I have played with people who take a really long time, and it's like, did you not know your turn was coming again? That we go in order here,
Yes.
make a decision.
Yeah.
And it's usually at like higher levels when they have more things to do, but they'll be like, okay, so where am I standing exactly? And like, how far away from this? And if I try this, could I possibly get that? And like, oh my God, just shoot your arrow. Let's just see what happens here. Or you also sometimes get the entire party that cannot decide, like you said, in like you come to a junction, which way do you go, left or right? And then you have to send the bugbears after them. So if it's just one player that maybe it's just like, and they're not trying to like be a hog, they're
Right.
just really slow. Can you like do anything to encourage that person?
So what I often do, especially with large groups of players, is if, let's say, Clara is taking her turn, I will let Bobby and Susan know their turns are coming up next.
Oh, okay.
Especially
Heads up.
if I have noticed in previous battles or other kinds of situations in the game that their attention tends to drift. And if I notice they're not really paying attention between turns, often that just little bit of DM engagement of, hey, your turn's coming up, will kind of get them to, oh, that's
Yep,
right.
Yep.
And so then when their turn comes, they've at least started to think about it. I have once in a great while, and thankfully this is not a technique I've had to use that many times, but if I have somebody, especially in a combat where it gets to them and they just refuse to make a decision, I will eventually just have their turn run out. You know?
Wow.
Oh yeah, I haven't done it that often, but occasionally be like, so it sounds like maybe you're going to be spending your turn dodging, or maybe you want to help, use the help action to help out your friends. Because what I'll do is I won't just say your turn's over,
Right.
but I will basically suggest
Have a buzzer.
because if I'm noticing that they are just not coming to a decision, I will offer up the tools that our game already offers for a person who doesn't know what they want to do on their turn, which is you can dodge, or you can help your friends,
Yeah.
or you can disengage and run away. There are options for that person, but sometimes they don't know that. Sometimes
Yes.
they're because often the telltale sign is the person is like scanning their character sheet, like where's the thing on here that I'm going to do, and they just can't decide. And so at that point, as a DM, I view, part of my job is to help people discover things in the rules that will help them, not to like enforce the rules, but just to, hey, you have all these tools available to you. And one of those tools is just crank up your defense by dodging. Or if you think the person next to you is doing cool things, but you're not sure what to do, well, then use the help action, and you just made them even cooler, and you're helping yourself in the process.
So I want to just clarify too, like if it's a new player, I certainly would give them way more freedom with this and help them. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, you're so new. But have you been playing for like 10 minutes? No, but it's like, just to clarify, I totally understand people who are getting familiar are going to take longer.
Oh,
and that is fine.
absolutely.
This was directed about people who are just like, I'm just really slow, and this is just how I move in real life too.
Well, and with the brand new players, for me, it's a completely different situation, because then what I'll often do if I see sort of the deer in headlights look, where it's like, oh no, they do not have any idea what to do.
No.
I will offer up some suggestions.
That's good, because even when you say you can do anything, that's harming them, because that is like, no, I don't. Now I have no idea what to do. So yes, offering suggestions, I think, is a really good idea.
And it's important too, when DMing for a new person like that, never offer trap options. I always make sure that the options I'm offering are actually good things for their character to do. That's another important tip. When teaching someone how to play, don't try to trick them.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, because I have seen DMs do that, where it's like, that's a part of, them growing up as a D&D player. How about I know. How about let them have a good time? They'll learn everything in time.
Yes.
What's funny, though, is I often find that, especially with kids who are playing for the first time, that you can do anything bit.
Yes.
They totally get it.
Works for them.
Yes. It's more often when teaching the game to adults, I find that they sometimes need sort of a multiple choice list of things to do, particularly in the time-pressured context of combat. Often outside combat, they're fine, because if it's like, oh, I'm just chit-chatting with people, and then the DM asks me to make an ability check, they get it. They're fine. But there's something about as soon as initiative is rolled and they have a turn and the spotlight is on them, it is often a grace for the DM to say, hey, here's some options of things you could do on your turn. You could do other things, but you will be on solid ground if you do one of these three things.
Yes.
But again, often with kids, if you just say,
what do you want to do? Do anything you want.
They'll come up with some wonderfully bonkers thing. And then instead your job as DM is like, so what rule, if any, can I use to make this bonkers thing come to life?
How much damage does poop have?
Which I'm sure is something Quinn would do.
On you. Of course. He told me he did a play in his class. And I was like, you know what? You and I should write a play. What do you want to write a play about? And he was like, well, obviously pooping, Mommy. What else would we write about? I'm like, you're right. What else?
The new damage type in D&D, poop damage.
Poop damage. I think if you were playing with kids, that would really work for them. Okay. Last question. Does your table etiquette style change when you are DMing live in front of an audience as opposed to your home game?
Absolutely. Because when I am DMing live, like for Acquisitions Incorporated, I'm not only being mindful of what are my players enjoying, where do we need to go in the story, but then I'm mindful of how is the audience enjoying this.
They're like an extra player.
Exactly. Are they laughing? Are they responding? Are they getting involved? And so I really do treat them as another player. It's different when you're doing a streamed game on camera and you can't actually see the audience's response. Then you just have to kind of guess and then maybe read feedback between sessions so that you can account for the audience's tastes as, again, that sort of invisible player at the table. But it's why I love doing live games on stage, because you know right away if something's landing with the audience or not. Now, luckily, like with AC Inc., the players are all really funny, they're talented, and so we kind of, as a team, can respond to that other player, the audience, and make sure while we're enjoying playing our D&D game, making sure they're enjoying it too.
Yeah, that's good. All really good advice, as I knew that it would be talking to you.
I love talking about DMing.
Well, good. Then you can come back, because I have a lot of questions. But really, thank you so much. I know you're busy, so to take time to come talk about table etiquette has been very, very wonderful. Are you still taking questions on Twitter? Do you still let people do that? So
people are always welcome to shoot D&D questions to me on Twitter at Jeremy E. Crawford. I don't get around to answering a whole lot of rules questions anymore. I've gotten so busy, and we are looking at answering more rules questions in the future in the Sage Advice Compendium. So if anyone is wondering, we do have plans to update the compendium which we think is ultimately a better place for people to find answers. Having one place they can go to.
That makes sense.
Than sort of scouring, in the last 5 years, did Jeremy ever tweet about X?
Yes.
It's not.
It'll all be in one place.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I do feel a little bit more inspired about this dungeon mastering thing.
Well, thank you for having me.
Anytime. All right. Thank you, Twitch friends. We are going to call it here. This was another really fun interview. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being with us. And we'll see you next week.